So currently, everybody should know this part, but we'll just make sure everybody kind of gets it. Currently, there's now 7 different exams in 4.0. There's the construction documents and services, site planning and design, programming, planning and practice, building design and construction systems, structural systems, and building systems. And then the 7th one, which is the all vignette one, which is this schematic design. So if you think about these for a second, it pretty clearly becomes pretty clear pretty fast that these are essentially silos of information, right? I have a silo of structures, and so I can go and study structures for a month and go take this exam, and it's all structures. There's nothing else on that exam. It's all very straightforward. And then there's a silo for the systems exam, right? The same thing. And there's a couple of those silos are a little oddly overlapped. Like, for example, site planning and program planning and practice. Obviously, there's planning in both of those, so there's a lot of overlap, and CD&S starts to overlap with some of these things, CD&S and building design and construction. So there's silos, but there is overlap. But you get this idea that I'm focused on one concept, and then when I go and hit the exam, it's all about that one concept. Well, kind of clearly, that's not very architecture-like. When was the last time you worked on a project and you were like all structures or all systems or all programming or planning or something? And so their decision was to go into a kind of new mindset. And the new mindset, I'm going to jump to the next here, is the 5.0. And the 5.0 is 6 exams. But the 6 exams are now organized in a very different way. So imagine you're a firm, and let's say you do a bunch of projects. So you've got a few different projects going. One of the exams is going to be sort of the organization of your practice. So it's looking at everything. How do I keep and get jobs? How do we keep quality control going? How does insurance work? What's the way that we position ourselves as a firm in terms of project delivery, and how does that impact our decisions? Do we have engineers in-house, or are they contracted separately? How does that impact the different decisions we make? So kind of all of the decisions about having a practice, like what does it mean to have a practice and how does that work? How does the money work? How does the insurance work? All of that. So that's one exam. That's going to be that first one right there. So that's the practice management. And then the second exam, if you think of these bars as individual projects, second exam is going to be, all right, now we're looking at one whole project. So it's project management. So that's going to be number 2. And project management is going to be things like, all right, we're looking at the whole concept of the project. So what is our contract? What's the project delivery for this project? So, okay, there's a client, the client has these needs, there's a certain kind of code situation, and therefore this makes sense to be design build, or this makes sense to be fast track. So it's looking at the big picture, what the big set of relationships are, how the engineers are related to the project, all of those kinds of issues. So it's this kind of looking at the whole thing, if you will. And then there's 4 of the next 4 of these exams, so we're going to say 3, 4, 5, and 6, are literally the project. So I'm going to divide this project into 4 parts. That first part is going to be, all right, we've got the project, and now we need to do some initial programming. We need to do some initial sketches. We need to think about how design might work with the survey. We need to think about the geotechnical information that we got from the owners to understand what kind of foundation we can put in. We need to kind of really think about all those very early issues. And so that's the kind of stuff that will be in that exam. The next exam is going to be Sorry, that one was called Programming and Analysis. The next exam, Project Planning and Design, is going to be, all right, we've gone past that very initial early sketches, really programming it out and kind of understanding the research that needs to be done. Now we're in the spot where we're really planning. We're in the spot where we're making real plans. We're thinking about site plans and floor plans and roof plans and landscape plans. Like we're getting all the kind of basic plan analysis done. And so we're able to kind of focus in. It's real dimensions. It's working with the codes. It's doing all of that kind of stuff. All right, the next exam is going to focus in on the next phase of the project. This one's called Project Development and Design. This is really where, okay, we've gone from a sort of planning idea where we were sort of pretty finished, but still just kind of in that planning phase. And now in this fifth one, in Project Development and Design, we're detailing it out. We're going all the way. We're going to the point where we have a bid set at the end and we're finishing the project off. So essentially, in terms of the kind of classic architect work, it sort of ends at the end of 5. So the end of 5 is we send out for the bids. Maybe you're reviewing bids in there or something, but it's the end of the architectural phase of the project. And then 6 is construction. And so for us, that ends up being, typical term would be CA, construction administration. Their term is construction and evaluation. And so that would be talking about all the things that happen that the architect is involved with during the construction phases. So it's talking about payouts, change orders, things, shop drawings, all sorts of different parts of the process that happen that the architect is involved in. That's what that exam is going to be about. So these first 2 are talking in these sort of general ideas. How does the overall practice work? How does the overall project work? And then the next 4 are really a timeline of the project. So it is very much trying to be a better distillation of what it's like to be an architect. That's really the whole thing behind all of these changes, is that they're trying to make the exam represent the process of being an architect better. Being an architect is all about being comprehensive, kind of understanding how one thing impacts another. And the trouble with the old system was it was these silos, nothing really impacted each other, it was just structures or just systems or just contracts. This is about this sort of comprehensive, fluid sense of how projects work.
So I just launched a quick poll here real quick just to sort of see what everybody thinks about the new exam. I think you have to answer the question in order to see the answers here. So in order to move to the next slide here. So just give me 15 more seconds and we will move on.
All right.
The answers we had here were, it's a terrible idea, sounds really good, some good, some bad, so-so. And then finally, I don't really understand A.R.E 5.0 yet. And so I'm going to close the poll here. And we've got, looks like 42% say sounds really good, 5% say it's terrible, 40% in the middle.
So. Yeah, well, I think that's sort of reasonable.